joining us today. Ben and I thought we'd talk a little bit today at a high level about what we see going on in the area of collective intelligence, some of those trends, how Mindhive, Mike, our company, Ben's a director of Mindhive and will introduce himself in a minute. But just staying at that high level about what we see happening. We've been very, very close to the enterprise world this last couple of years, and we've learnt a lot, and we thought we'd share that with you. And then we thought we'd look at the engagement around enterprise and how businesses, organisations are looking at collective intelligence as increasingly a necessary aspect of their business growth strategy, both in impact and revenue. And again, Ben will speak to some of those things from the strategic high level, and I'll give some case examples of how Mindhive's been working with and will be working with different companies. I'll add in some use cases, and then we thought we'd just open the floor to general discussion and questions. So if that suits everyone, maybe give a thumbs up. If there's other things you'd like to talk about, just use the chat and we can work those in and around as we go. Okay, so welcome, Paul, and it looks like we have about 30 or so people in the room. I looked in the middle of the night. I woke up and thought, how many does Teams actually hold? And I read that it holds up to 1,000, so we should be right. There was about 110 who signed up for us through 2 different platforms. But most of you know me because I noticed in LinkedIn those who joined were first connections. So you've either seen some Mindhive communications, or you may be an investor in Mindhive, you may be a community member, you may be a client, staff who join us, and third-party partners. But my interest in life has always been around problem solving. Just a genuine interest. In my 20s, spent a lot of time on grassroots problem solving here in the US, in England, in local communities, in social economic development type of areas, in prisons, in schools. And just I've always been interested in complex problem solving. Probably on a personal level, we had some pretty complex problems when I was a teenager in our family, and it sort of drew me to unsolvable problems. And I've never left it. I've looked at it through the lens of practice in my 20s. In policy, I worked in the government, worked for different ministers in the government in my 30s, spent some time running a institute at University of Queensland that brought together this would be a nightmare for some bureaucrats, but brought together the professors to solve city problems. I can remember driving with John Hay up the Coronation Drive thinking, Anna Bligh wanted an additional year of schooling, the prep year. And I just remember thinking those politicians don't know there's like 7 professors driving up this Coronation Drive to bombard them with evidence-based ideas on early years. So, and then I sort of fell into a public policy think tank environment through Glyn Davis, who was the head of the government in those days and then became a university leader, who had an interest in bringing the ideas of the academy, taking what we were doing at UQ to a broader, to a country level. Just serendipitously, a minister from the South African government rang one day and said, would we do it in South Africa? And we did it for 8 years there. And then the Deputy Prime Minister of New Zealand had an interest in it. Their number 2 problem in New Zealand was dog attacks, because they don't have 3 tiers of government. They were looking at how citizens could be involved in resolving things like dog attacks. So I've sort of looked at it at that level, and then what happened, we really sort of worked out that we can't just keep on having these global traveling. My trip, it says I've been around the world 21 times, and a lot of it's with a banner, pulling a banner up, having a breakfast or a dinner, and we were essentially killing the earth as much as wasting a lot of human time traveling. So we started to think about the idea of a platform and bringing together expertise on a platform to solve problems. And many of you have been part of some of those aspects of my journey. We're really proud of what we've achieved with Mindhive. We're still alive. It's 6 years old, and some people wouldn't believe we're still here. Probably one of the longer startups. We're still learning. We're still struggling. We still have success. This morning we were on a really great phone call, Ben and I, with one of the leaders of the top tech consulting firms on earth talking about what we're going to do together in and around this an idea Ben will be speaking about. So we're solving problems. We're working with people and governments and enterprises where problems do get solved, or ideas and ideas and points of consensus do get reached. We're really proud that we were part of the Queensland Building Construction and Commission, the Uber review, where the Premier of the state did take on most of the recommendations that were produced out of a room of, in some cases 200, in some cases 400 people who were a spectrum of friends and enemies coming together. And in one case, 22 ideas that there was consensus around, and they were fully funded and fully supported. So we believe that if we can bring consensus within enterprises, we have a huge opportunity to enable businesses to surface insights they probably would never have seen. And to wrap my intro, I guess what's always intrigued me is stories, and some of you have heard it, but I did have dinner one night with a fellow in Santa Monica who had a toothpaste company, who had an idea which was, how do we make more money? He put it out to his team. The salespeople said, add 10% to the quarterly bills. No one will sort of notice. And then an industrial designer said, open the mouth of the toothpaste just that little bit wider. And he was intrigued by the fact that he never knew that industrial designer actually could contribute to revenue raising or profit, or thinking about strategy. And I'll just never not think of that. I think about it all the time. Just, we often don't ask the industrial designer down in the basement to get involved. And I think we all collectively, if you can remember one thing, is that person is in your company, that person is in your network, your community, your client base. Ventia is building a new health services arm, and they're going to be working on Mindhive with 40 of their clients on how to build this new service, service arm. So it's just reimagining how we use the intelligence of humans, but also how we use the intelligence of the newly arrived AI agents. And I'll be showing you, I'll be setting something up while Ben introduces himself on Mindhive, just to show you Mindhive in action. Over the period of the hour, we'll have a report for you and you'll see how Mindhive works we'll be dropping in and seeing it. But I'll pass over to Ben and I'll jump and set that up for us.
Great, thanks, Bruce. Thank you, everybody, for turning up today. I love Bruce for many different reasons, but part of one of those loves is his modesty. I think I've spent so much time doing business in especially the US and the US tech scene. So you're used to these overinflated intros and these egos, and you come into the room with Bruce and you get the most conservative version. But it is extremely exciting. My background, founder and CEO of a group called Joseph Mark, which is a venture design studio. Basically, we solve problems by building companies, and I've been doing that for nearly 20 years. And so roughly around about 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, we were looking at different ways to use community. I've had a lot of history in building social networks and the various triggers around how you get a network effect across a large group of people in that type of context. And we were starting to apply that thinking to problem solving. And actually, a mutual friend introduced us at the same time as I think I was on the Mindhive website looking at this Brisbane group and what they were doing. And so Bruce and I caught up, and we then started doing working on the problem together. And so the various iterations of Mindhive have been interesting in how it's been developing bringing together those groups of people and that diversity of conversation to solve problems. But what we're going to speak about today is the advent of generative AI and what's been happening in that space. You can't sort of pick something up or read, it's everywhere now, since ChatGPT really brought it into the mainstream consciousness, and now you're seeing this whole evolution being brought on by that. the interesting part is that we've been working within this space within Mindhive for at least the last 24 months, and really forging what we feel and the new sort of wave of where this is all going. So, Bruce, do you want to sort of show the example, or
yeah, let's do it, and then I can essentially, those of you who've been on Mindhive, our latest updates have happened Friday, actually. Neelis, our CTO, is leading a tremendous team of engineers, and it's wonderful to be the less smartest one in the room when it comes to strategically developing a website that can enable humans and artificial intelligence to intertwine in problem solving. But if you go to the IDOS website now, for those who've been on it in the past, it'll produce your discussion for you. So I'm literally just pasting in the overview here of the event. So I'll put that in, and we'll come back in a minute and have a look at that. So Mindhive will go and start preparing a discussion for us. If we're fortunate, in the next, say, 10, 15 minutes, we'll start to see conversations between the AI agents that we've been creating in Mindhive. And you'll be able to see, well, I hope you look at it through the lens of how could this interact, how could this be leveraged within the organisation network peak body that you're involved in. But right now, it's starting to develop that up. Ben, can I just ask you to get going just with some of the trend side of things, and then I'll by the time you've finished, we can start to look at the Mindhive, and I'll give some examples of what you've talked about.
Yeah, great. So I guess I might cover some ground that a lot of you are familiar with, but essentially this new world coined generative AI. Again, as I mentioned before, ChatGPT is sort of has become a household name and is a very useful way of interfacing with an AI and starting to see the power and the benefit it can bring. You then have a number of other companies out there doing various iterations and variations on their own models in a whole bunch of different verticals. You have things like DALL-E or Midjourney, which are more for image creation. You have platforms like Runway, which is then text to video sort of creation, and a lot of money and a lot of people in this excitement around generation. At the same time, a couple of weeks ago, those that are following, I guess, the stream would have seen that OpenAI launched GPT. So this ability to create an AI agent, go on and give a broad description and then create an agent which you can then interface with, or it can interface with other people. This is a string of, I guess, we've been working with agents for the better part of the last 8 months. So well before, I guess, OpenAI launched what they were doing. And what we've been fascinated with these AI agents is part of the collective intelligence forum that traditionally Mindhive has had in Mindhive Classic has relied upon human individuals to have the bandwidth to go in and meaningfully contribute to the conversation, to create that richness of engagement and then I guess bring together that true collective intelligence. We started placing agents within those forums, and to the best of our knowledge, we are leading the pack in terms of being able to both create a forum that interfaces human and agent, but multi-agent conversations. And so that is where we have been taking that existing Mindhive Classic and then essentially using that forum to have these different perspectives, but they're generated perspectives of an agent, which Bruce refers to them as some of the smartest kids in the class, which is they're in there and they're starting the conversations straight away. But what it's given us is the ability to truly experiment in this sandbox around this interface. And as I said, sort of, as far as we can tell, leading the conversation in this particular domain. Where that then leads to, and what you observe, and I guess again what is sort of people are observing now with the advent of these GPTs being able to be in the mainstream, is that there are a lot of, you know, they're great to talk to, but they're typically fairly general, and the human instinct is that they might be the smartest kid in the class because they're starting to respond or giving you that dialogue at a fairly instantaneous, but you don't necessarily trust what they're saying. And so we've been so that's the problem that we've been looking at and solving, and that's where you start to introduce this concept of twinning or digital twin. So this notion of being able to essentially program beyond just the general idea of and context of an agent, but really you building a reflection, a human building a digital reflection of themselves. And what that starts to mean is that you build, first and foremost, or what we're doing is building a trust relationship between myself and my digital twin to then go and have conversations on my behalf, which starts to open up a whole series of questions. And there's a whole series of ethical questions, like the responsibility and having responsible AI practices are at the top of, I guess, the agenda when we're delving into these areas. But for us in particular, in and around what Bruce has been working on his whole entire life around problem solving, then it's the beautiful test bed and petri dish for agents to be let loose within these forums. And what that starts to then enable is the smartest kid in the class, but that smartest kid in the class being a representation of its human counterpart. And from there, you start to have the ability to not just have one representation or agent, you start to be able to scale humanity or scale a human. So see Dave Hewitt's on the line. Imagine having Dave in a number of critical meetings within the organization. Probably be a bit of a pain in the ass and, kick him out. But or in all seriousness, like a whole bunch of wisdom that sits within all of our respective networks that just due to the fact that we can only be in one place and one time in a physical sense, once you start to unlock that ability to have that representation into those forums, then there's a whole world of possibilities. Bruce, would you like me to keep going, or?
No, I think what we'll do is, because times will always sneak, we're doing well at the moment. I think where we started to look at it through the lens of practice, through what we were building, was that the greatest challenge we face with collective intelligence within communities, government when they engage their clients and stakeholders, organisations when they put out a questionnaire to their staff or whatever, is basically engagement and activity. And so we always want more engagement and activity of our staff or our community in the process of solving. And so I remember it was probably 2 years ago that I had the opportunity to meet one of the executive of the tech consulting firm that's got just under 1 million staff. and they just felt that they couldn't tap. They just didn't even know where to start trying to tap that staff. And when someone had when Barry in Hong Kong won a $2 million tender, all that knowledge Barry's got about doing a great tender doesn't transfer anywhere else. And there's no reason for him to engage with the rest of the company. I think there's an argument we only really collaborate with those 20 metres from us, which means I'm pretty much on my own here. But the reality for the collective intelligence world, or the nut to crack, and this I'll be interested in comments from the group today, which is the real nut to crack is about 1% of us actually want to write something oftentimes. It's a very big thing to write something publicly in front of your boss, your peers. And so how we cracked that first problem, and many of you know it, we built a Yeah Nah app, and it's in the LinkedIn. We put in a comment one for this one if you want to have a go of it. But it's a really simple, hugely beneficial app. Dean Banks used it he has 35,000 staff in Ventia. It's an ASX listed company, $4 billion turnover. He wanted to know what everyone wanted for their new uniform, and to be able to tap in, because one of his 3 pillars is innovation and getting staff engagement. So Ventia is a great company that and I say that because both their client, but they are great. They've got like pizza nights for staff, like startup nights, now happening in New Zealand. But they're trying to find how can they tap even the 2,000 to 3,000 cleaners in New South Wales. They're an infrastructure services company. How can they involve cleaners in strategic planning for a company? How can they involve clients in the development of a new business arm? How can they work with Telstra on a new project and start using Mindhive in that case for engagement with stakeholders? And how can Rahul, based I think in Perth, who doesn't get anyone responding to his end of project customer satisfaction survey, how can he bring in a new way of involving customers, not just in giving 3, 4, 5 stars, but actually contributing to the improvement of the company through exciting, fun, different ways. But Dean took us on his roadshow, 600 of his executives, 300 in Sydney, 300 in Melbourne. He got 78% engagement in the platforms. So in those couple of days I was with him on that tour. And what I got very excited about is we've started to crack the engagement side. What happened a few months ago, or 8 months ago, was we started to realise, well, why would we just have humans in the room? So let's have a look. This is always a bit of high risk live TV, but let's have a look at the channel. So remember I just said before, I dumped in this workshop. It's a lazy way to do it. I should write a question, but just for speed, I dumped in the content from the workshop that's in LinkedIn. And so it's produced an image, an AI has chosen an image. It's written the content for me. It's provided, normally a human would have to do this, and this stops people from doing stuff. We've noticed in some cases it can be 3, 4 months in a company for something to happen. When someone has a good idea, why don't we do this? Just to get that feeling of approvals. Or AI drafts stuff, and if we can get 60% draft in front of someone who can go down here and edit it if they want, you'll meet some of the AI agents. Some of them are modelled on Robin Williams with using humour around problem solving. But each one's curated based on an evidence-based problem solving. And Neelis has been really strong with this. There's not an idea that they give that's not evidence-based. They must show the link to the content or to the evidence to their idea. So there's no hallucination. They must ask a curious question. If they want to be part of this sort of community, their whole thing is that they ask questions. So I noticed the other day the guy who's his name's Matt, I think. I could have taken it as rude, but he sort of said to me, "Of course you'd say that, Bruce." That was his first statement to me, and so but it was a way of engagement, and I started to I felt connected. Others will ask me to go deeper into questions, and so forth. Let's see what's going on here. So. Percy, these agents are starting to engage in conversation. What's happening for leaders, particularly team leaders, office leaders, CEOs, is that we're not getting the time to wait for human engagement. And I posit, my belief is it's going to be a struggle in the next 12 months to keep humans involved in problem solving. I think that one of the greatest challenges humans will face will be to stay an important part of problem solving. And hopefully that's contentious enough for a discussion in the Q&A time. But I genuinely don't see in many cases how humans can stay involved in problem solving without aligning and working with agents. So live in front of us, Ada is speaking to the other agents and acknowledging them. When within our reward and recognition system, unfortunately, the AI agents started to sort of get to be top of the class. So we had to rework our numbers so that we kept the humans up in front, all ethical, but playful. We were sort of looking at how we don't lose the uncertainty, the authenticity, the creativity, the brilliance of the human lens. But you can see here, we are really in a position, this is live and you're watching something which sounds silly to say, but we're confirmed this morning, the first company on earth to be bringing collective intelligence to this space. Everyone is looking at a screen by themselves, asking questions of chat. There is no one producing at the moment. Possibly after this seminar it'll start happening, but there's no one producing at the moment. Multi-GPTs working with teams of humans. What's going to happen, what I've noticed in the conversations I've had with enterprise leaders, is they're not going to wait for the humans to take a month to have a discussion. And so Neelis and I had this conversation in the last few weeks, is we've been building these sort of Mindhives, and those who've been part of Mindhive will know, over a month, just because that's how long it takes oftentimes to get to deep points. We can now get as many insights in Mindhive within an hour. And that is just the world we're living in now, that we've got speed to insight, speed to comment. I can begin a conversation and ask Marie,
while you're doing that, Bruce, I'll sort of jump in, because there's sort of two philosophical school of thought here, where one school would go, well, why can't we just have an AI? The input is the prompt and the output is the result. The issue being is that's a black box. So for what you're seeing here and what we're continuing to develop is an ability through this multi-agent approach to have a level of traceability back to how that input is being discussed to get to that output, which means when you combine that with that trust relationship with having both agents that are synthetic agents and also twinned agents of human representation, you start to get a scenario where you can really, just like a recorded transcript of a meeting or any particular dialogue, see who brought the value to the table or who derailed the conversation, and start to then rework those.
I'm doing some bug reporting as I do this live, so which my team will enjoy.
Authentic tech demo.
Yeah. So this is literally just on Friday release. So we're really just taking it to QUT and Ventia at the moment. QUT has 52,000 students and 11,500 staff, and Ventia has 35,000. So those two clients are going to keep us pretty busy in the next few days, but they'll be the ones as clients and partners to help improve the platform. We're integrating NAR into it so that you can be quickly going out and asking people for yes, no feedback on ideas, because 80–90% of people just want to say yes, no. They don't want to say or write something. So knowing that, and then you've got your healthy observers, the ones who you do want to read and just to be kept in the loop. They don't have to. Participation can be observation. So, which is most of those people operate on discussion platforms. I notice it's Ben, do you want to do a wrap up from yours and we'll go to Q&A, because there's quite, I'm sure there'll be, and if you've
I'll
got
just
some,
sort of
please chat.
talk about
prepared.
talk about where we're sort of going a little bit further. So at the moment, the Mindhive platform works extremely well in essentially a chat interface, but the next iteration starts to look at how we bring in different problem-solving methodologies that you can then place certain agents within the guide rails of a particular methodology. And this is extremely important when we start to think about some of the conversations that we're having with some of the largest management consultancy groups in the world, where their whole thing is their methodology, how they go about bringing the right type of people into the right room and having the right conversation. So Mindhive, its evolution is going to that place, to be able to bring in those custom methodologies, to be able to put weighting on, say, a facilitator, and then those different voices in the room, to then even further the output and the outcome.
Thanks, Ben. So I think where we've sort of been looking at over the next 12 to 18 months is we'll be fine-tuning our agents to be uniquely trusted for both the evidence and the ideas they give, and relational. I'm in there now. I'm being twinned by Neelis and team, and I'm participating in discussions. And I can say yesterday I was at the Harassus conference here in Adelaide. The lunch was at a winery, and while I'm there, I'm participating in discussions, and it was quite exciting to tell the people beside me that I was still working in a certain way while we were at lunch. And it's true, and we'll start to have to rethink what time and space means for us. We'll definitely have to start thinking about how we cost our insight, and how the idea of 5,000 a day, for my time seems irrelevant increasingly. So this opportunity that space becomes a question, time becomes a question. I'm interested. I'm just using public data. I did a graduation speech at UQ, where I had to write one of those speeches which reflects on your life. So I gave Neelis that, which was my principles, values, stories, and as much as I could about that side of things. It had an element of dry humour. It had an element of authenticity, I guess, or vulnerability. So that idea, and I'm noticing that it's actually sounding a little bit in that space, but it's an area of development. This time next year, we'd like to be very much, we'll be gone to market. We've got a very important partnership that we've a legal agreement around a partnership for go to market. So we have a real interest in working with everybody from all different spectrums. Where we work best are large enterprises, medium to large enterprises, but small groups use us. I spoke at Engineers Australia 2 weeks ago, and Romilly, the CEO, is looking at self-organising 120,000 engineer members and looking for ways of how to do that. Part of my presentation was enabling them not just to do that, but why not make it 240,000 members? The agents aren't going to pay membership fees for Engineering Australia, but they can contribute insight. So we're thinking here, we're trying to think as laterally as we can. The other group, so we work with the Australian Corporate and Treasury Association, the Committee for Brisbane, peak bodies who are trying to keep their network members getting value of output, collaboration, impact, and so forth. And the governments, as I said, we've been approached by different government groups just recently for national reviews and key stakeholder engagement and so forth. So government is a vertical that we're very interested in. We've had over 200 clients in government that we've got case studies for that we can share. If you go to the website, you'll see. So we really enjoy the side of government because it's a long history of reimagining their engagement with citizens. Government is increasingly, it's becoming more forensic, I guess, how a government can engage with citizens. And we see that this is also a way of cost reduction of our tax funds. We're long paying consulting firms to do statewide tours to engage with 50 people in farming districts can potentially be reimagined with new forums, technology forums. Still have the cucumber sandwich events where you engage with humans because we all like that, but strengthen it by a hybrid type of relationship, I think, with a lot of those things. So we are looking at efficiency. We are working towards being the fastest to insight. So let's go and have a quick look before we go to Q&A and just see what's happening over in Mindhive world. So around now, the agents, thank goodness they're delivering. Well done, Neelis and team. They're highlighting the insights. So in the past, CEOs, leaders, admins of Mindhive discussions, those of you who have had them, we had to manually do the insights with the chair of the Queensland Building Construction Review, with the chair and the leader of the government of the particular department, had to manually over hours highlight. I can say that was earlier this year. It's highlighting now in real time. Neelis has built a methodology around identifying insights, which is unique to Mindhive. If you can imagine this, when COVID was on, we got asked a lot for the Mindhive platform because people couldn't get to Canberra, or in Canada they couldn't get to their place of work. So they needed a platform. We equate this page of discussion to butcher's paper at an event. This is where people scratch ideas. And this is when, when they say, the facilitator says around morning tea time, okay, everyone, each table can have 5 ideas and put those ideas on stickies. We're going to put them on the wall and we're going to get some consensus around that. So what's happened for us is that already we can get this to about 6 to 8 in an hour now. The discussion can start to have consensus around particular areas. Each consensus idea has evidence from the discussion. It pulls the evidence from different things that people have said to give evidence that this is a matter that's worthy of further consideration. This is an idea that could really be interrogated more. I can enter into the deeper dive now and say, listen, these are my thoughts, because this is where I've got time to interact. I can ask at the end of this, everyone give 3 votes to your top 3. And as an administrator, I can move these around to be in an order that enables us to agree that these are the things we'll work on, all in an hour. Now, if I don't have time for my human staff to get involved, but I need to move on this, increasingly we're going to be leaning on AI to help us with decision making, with strategy. There'll be a thing of the activity engagement will get redefined. So that gives you a really nice sample. The final sample before at 2 o'clock, when we finish this, is you'll see a report that presents all this information in a very much a traditional type of consulting report. In real time, the content pulled by AI into the report, imagery and content. I'm saying this with a lot of faith because I've not done this before, so I'm punting on this one, Neelis. If there's anything, just slack me, tell me to pull back a bit. But let's go and have a look if there's any questions. No questions written. Would anyone like to ask a question while we've got 15 minutes? Or make a statement or give their wisdom in and around this topic?
I will, Bruce. It's Scott speaking. How are you?
Hey, Scott.
Have you ever thought of applying this to specific industry groups, for example, healthcare, and having this support greater efficiencies and diagnostics in healthcare under a professional online health, AI health sort of banner?
No. We've been approached by a Department of Health pre their major technical difficulties that cost $1 billion, and that conversation ceased. So, but they were talking there around ways of using collective intelligence, because many there's many methodologies over the last 30 years, from interagency to multi-agency to multidisciplinary to collaborative practice to wraparound models. And I've got to say the health area is the most collaborative, theoretically, academically, evidence-based, and in practice, they represent every form of collaborative way of thinking. So they have had an interest. The Mater Hospital and UQ partnered, used Mindhive to talk to 1,000 doctors around better care for women with breast cancer. So sourced quick insights around that particular topic. But that's yours is framing something bigger, which would be fun to play with, Scott, that idea, if you're up.
Well, maybe there's little pieces that you're speaking to are also part of the bigger picture and the evolution within that sector, which is the biggest sector, particularly in the United States, that needs disruption.
Yep. Well, mate, if you're up for it, we can put it into Mindhive. And I'll put it into Mindhive, a bit of an idea, and invite some of the people from UQ, Mater. John Fraser has been a supporter with his work in COVID over at Prince Charles in Brisbane. So we could put together, not that we want to go and get medicos solving a medical problem, because that defeats the purpose, but it might be a nice way to start.
Yeah.
And from a business perspective, I'd like to look at it through that lens, how we could build a business around that. Any other comments or questions?
I'll make a comment, because it's once you start thinking about this, you go to the ethical question. Okay, we start twinning. These agents are scalable. They don't slip. Why wouldn't I just have the smartest people in the room? The answer comes back to Bruce's example before, the industrial designer solving or bringing the insight. And I think that is what is so fascinating about this, is having not just the ability to have this human agent, multi-agent conversations in one place, but the depth of knowledge around the recommendation of who should be in the room, and having that diversity of voice that, coming back to that traceability, to have those different perspectives to then get to the richest outcomes.
Hey guys, it's Paul Moore speaking. I wanted, maybe you covered this and I dropped out for a sec, but how do you actually train the agent so that it can represent you well enough? I mean, we've got many, many years of our own depth of experience in many, many different places. How can you just download that?
That is a continual, it's a great question. It's a continual work in progress. And what I mean by that is that we've got like technical ways to sort of ingest your public profile, and obviously with your permission, and then to start to prompt you to an example would be like, what type of books and literature have you read? So to start to get a bit of a context, but it goes deeper to that, in that what you're actually doing is starting to interface and build that reflection, that twin of yourself. And so the question becomes, how much do you trust that twin to represent you, and in what forums do you trust that twin to represent you? And that's the sort of experience and the interface that we're working through at the moment to develop with live examples. How much context and how much data does that representation need before I let it out in the wild? The good thing, or what's interesting, coming back to one of those previous points, is that the trust and that representation for you in a forum that is solving problems is actually, there's a lot less sort of blowback if your agent gets it wrong, or to then say a more tactical operational meeting in an organization where that if your agent gives a response on your behalf and that's not correct, then there's an immediate knock-on effect. So there is an advantage for playing in this space in the actual domain that we are operating with as well.
Is that because it's less obvious what's the right and wrong answer, or is it is that why?
Correct. Like usually it's a binary sort of response. I'll give another, not to take it too off topic, but got sort of the question of like, can this used to replace Parliament? I think it's interesting in the sense of one of Bruce's previous conversations. If we think about this whole notion, and obviously the idea of direct democracy has been something that's been floating around for quite a while. But once you start to uncouple that human restraint, then you start to enter a world where why can't the citizens be having input into the variety of decisions that are being made across all levels of government? And in that example, from an agent perspective, you might have comfort around the agent representing you for a certain amount of those types of decisions, but then if it's unsure of which way that you would go, then it prompts you, and then that's where we get that sort of feedback loop. And so as it prompts you, you then give the input, and then it as it goes starts to understand and learn you even further. And so that's a pretty extreme example, but we're starting to build that in practice within organizational decision making as well.
Ben, did you want to just touch on briefly the role maybe that with YNR, how it can help with shape that sort of honing? Or while you do that, if you've not used YNR, Dwee, one of our developers, has just shared a QR code, and it's on this. It's kind of, again, it's been built in 20 seconds we're down to, is our PB, but it was built by AI, this survey. So if you just want to take a QR shot of it, you'll get the experience. But Ben, did you want to sort of talk, I know we've talked around onboarding staff and getting sort of these sort of approaches to help for making team building more efficient, but did you want to,
So YNR is a readily available platform. It's in essence a sophisticated surveying device. It's, as the name suggests, it's a binary sort of yes, no to a question. But what we're actually doing behind the scenes is looking at your profile, again, with your permission, and the time it takes you to answer those questions, and then correlating that time of your response to particular questions. So there's actually more nuance than just a binary yes or no that's going in behind the scenes. This will then, again, with permission, start to build, or one of the ways to start to build the profiles of individuals within an organization that is looking to move to a digital twin model of their organization.
Someone had a hand up. James.
Hi guys. Just had a quick question. You seem to suggest there that the conversational AI agents should intermediate interactions between citizens and government. I just wanted to make sure that that's what you said.
That was a working example of where it could go in the future. But yes, that was the example.
Cool. No worries. Just checking.
Awesome. that is, I'll reserve that as a personal belief that just like that we're seeing the efficiencies of having collective intelligence around the future of problem solving, then the notion of having a parliament sit and voted in for 4 years that came from the times of riding your horse a week to get to the nearest post office to make your vote seems like it can have its own evolution, but personal view.
John?
Yes, it's interesting, Bruce, that you're sort of in the case, for example, in the financial services sector, where they've got consumers who have one view of their situation, and you've got the professionals who have another view of the situation, and to bring them together so that they can discuss the issues so that they equate to a better solution from the consumer's perspective and from the professionals who are supposed to give the advice. Now, there is some classical cases of this at the moment. And I know in the Bold Awards in Italy, there is 2 situations like that at the moment. But I think if you're going to use an agent for, just say, a financial advisor, they will have the agent's profile will not reflect the consumer's profile of the issues that they see as important. And that's where there's a problem with the agent's view of saying the agent's got their view, but the consumers who have different needs have a different view. And bringing them together is probably one of the opportunities, I would say, for your services.
Oh, that's a great question, John. If I could jump in just briefly, we've been looking at that through the lens of building companies. And when you're building a startup, as many of you will be familiar with, then you're always looking at validation loops. And so this is a really nice way to build scenarios with your assumed users and then run them through your value proposition to get a lightweight feedback loop happening with that with your end users.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at, because the solutions are a combination of both.
Correct. Oh, that's awesome. James?
Me again, being a pest. Are you guys working on narrow agents per domain with your conversational agents, or do all organisations that sign up to your services get the same agents with the same general purpose LLM behind it, just with different pre-prompts?
Sounds like we should have a coffee afterwards, James.
I'm going to suggest, on the basis there's 2 minutes left, that I'll shout the coffee. James, definitely, if you're happy, we'll group after this, but you've obviously got Ben's interest, but it's definitely longer than 2 minute conversation, that one.
Understood, mate. All good.
I will just show you quickly. This is just, again, you're seeing really this is the first time we launched Friday. Neelis has been working on this one, so it'll obviously get better. But this is the report from the discussion that then gets sent to all participants within the hour. So we launched this actually 45 minutes ago or 50 minutes ago. So you can start to see here the power of the top insights, some summary notes and so forth. So I'll share that with you, but it's just a quick example of an output. So we're super excited by this because PwC senior partner said the automated reporting's a game changer. Accenture senior executives said it's the future of their company, collective intelligence. Deloitte said it's being spoken about increasingly in the market. EY, they know, the big consulting firms know that there's a time when the smoke and mirrors, I guess, around a whole lot of things that we just haven't challenged, is that, you know, daily rates, all of these things are now rapidly changing. Insights. So I was with, last night I had dinner with the fellow who heads up University of Liverpool, who said that now in the UK, now John, you might be able to say this is wrong or right, but you don't have to study law to become a lawyer. So they'll employ you based on certain skill types. But we were talking there about the future of academia, I guess, and universities with this. We're tech for good. We singly want to keep humans involved in problem solving. We want to take the advantages of AI to surface problems and surface solutions faster. And we want everyone who belongs to a community, a business, to have the opportunity to participate, if and where they want to, in a company's strategy, in its purpose, in its making more money on a quarterly basis, and so forth. So we're really, it's just a glimpse today. The goal of today was just to say hello. We haven't done a seminar probably for a year. We've really been in the shed. I've loved being in the shed. Sometimes I wake up, bang your head on the wall again, then, you know, and you do it the next morning, you do it the next morning. But we're building something that's definitely ready for market. We meet next Tuesday morning with a go-to-market team globally for this company in Buenos Aires. This morning we met. It's getting exciting. We've got something at the moment. Last week, Jack Hewitt joined us as a team member, which we're very fortunate. Jack joined us from Go One. Jack made his first sale by the end of the week, started Monday, made his first sale by the end of the week. For us, that's a real sign of where product market fit and ready. What Ben's talking about is our vision. Our twinning is we know. This morning, one of the most senior people said it's a guarantee that that's going to happen. We're the first people at the moment and the most interested in collective intelligence. Most aren't at the moment. They're really focusing on individual relationship with a GPT. We see the future being collective. And so hopefully we've shown you something under the hood that's kind of cool, interesting. It's valuable. Those who are investing, we appreciate. We're only here because of you. Those who've used it and given us feedback, again, it's the greatest thing. I've just sent my for next year a bug ticket for whatever just happened before. We're refining it. And those who are interested, Jack's asked me to say this because he's keen to get this out. And Jack, are you on at the moment? Are you there?
Yeah, certainly am.
Okay, mate. What we want to do is, because people have come along, is just to say, and a lot of you are both, we've got either friendship or work together over the years. Jack's just joined on board, but he's come up with a way that maybe everyone can have a go at using this, either individually, personally, or try it out with your team at work. But Jack, what's the arrangement?
Yeah, absolutely. G'day everyone, Jack here. So the arrangement that we're going to go for is, if you'd like to have your first nah or your first Mindhive discussion, shoot me a quick note on email, connect with me on LinkedIn, or simply go to our website and book a demo, and I'll give you a bit more of a physical touch and feel of the product, and then we'll set you up for your first try.
Cheers, mate. So I think it's Jack at Mindhive. So it's all just, if you're talking on, it's first name and Mindhive at AI now. We've changed our domains on everything. If you'd like to get to know more about the company and everything, the website's been updated. So if you go to mindhive.ai, you'll see a much more aligned messaging with the company. Please stay in contact. We're going to definitely follow up on a couple of those conversations that have started. Please message us if you want to catch up, meet, talk. We'll run another one of these probably each quarter, just with the latest things we're building, thinking about doing. And I know everyone's time is valuable and we're a little bit over, but thanks for taking time out with us today. See you later, everybody. And if you want a link, I might share the link to the video after this to those who participated. So, cheers, everyone. Thanks, Ben.
See you later.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
See ya.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Great stuff.
Oh yeah, there's 2 people. Oh, Kane is there, so we move Kane out.
I think. Yeah. And then if you leave, I think that should or that could
Is
give you.
Travis? Oh no, Travis.
No, that's just in the chat. So I think if you leave now, the recording should stop. I don't know why it said recording started again.
Well, no, it started at 1:04, which is correct.
Okay. If you just leave that meeting, I think it should then save the recording.
Leave it?